Hi, guys, and welcome to the Lady Bam podcast. We are so excited to be back with you guys. When Major Crimes ended, a couple months ago, me and Chelsea and Mary all got together and we had a lot of conversations of how much we enjoyed doing What Would Sharon Rader Do, and how much we enjoyed being able to talk to you guys and have the communications and all the amazing conversations. And we really wanted to find a way to honor that and to expand on that and to continue our connection with you. And so that's where the Lady Bam came from. And we're just really excited to, expand on the positive voices and themes and thoughts and conversations that were at the heart of What Would Sharon Rader Do, and broaden those and expand them and just kind of see where this is all going to go. With me here is Chelsea, is back again.
Hey guys, Chelsea here. I'm super stoked to be back in this new iteration of what we're doing. I don't know what it's going to turn into, but I'm really excited. As Mina so wonderfully introduced it, she is also here. If you guys don't know who Mina is, she's amazing. She used to run MajorCrimesTV.net and kept us all abreast of she still does, actually. Yes. And kept us all abreast of what was going on with major crimes and all that good stuff. She has been such an important part of this team and of this podcast, and I'm so glad to have her back.
Thank you.
And, of course, the woman of the hour, Mary.
Hi, everybody. Okay. I hear SKB laughing. Oh, by the way, let me just say, you already know this, most of you, because I watched Twitter explode when we announced it, our very first special guest, and I think we will be having more guests on the Lady Bam podcast. We will be having more guests, I think, than we did on What Would Sharon Rader Do. We're all very excited about that idea of engaging with people that we feel are stimulating examples of what we are all trying to be. And our first most favorite person to join us today and help us launch our podcast is the remarkable Stacey K. Black.
Hello.
Yay! Did you hear the musicality in her voice? Oh my God, right? She can't just say hi.
I'm so excited to be here. This is so fun. I wasn't able to do What Would Sharon Rader Do for some reason.
I know,
but this is, I'm the first one.
You are.
Amazing.
You are.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for coming, Stacey. And before we get into all about Stacey, I just want to say that we had a really tricky ending with Major Crimes. I just want to acknowledge it. And we took a little time, as Mina said, off to sort of let things to kind of let it not settle down, but sort of reflect, and sort of see what it felt like to be on the other side of how difficult an ending it was. And we wanted to give you guys the chance to do that too, to just sort of let's leave it alone for a minute. But we don't want to leave it alone any longer because the world is just exploding around us and there's so much to talk about, and we're just very excited to be back. So with all that said, and thank you for sending in all your questions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, Mina? We've got some great
Got some
stuff.
great questions, and we really thank you guys for embracing kind of the new, what this is. And we're really, like I said, excited to explore it and see where it goes and go from there.
Awesome. Okay.
Very cool.
So, Miss Stacey K. Black,
Yes,
our
Miss Mary
first
McDonnell.
guest for Lady Bam podcast. It's actually rather fitting that it's Stacey for many reasons, but the primary reason is that Stacey gave me the name Lady Bam. Stacey, you want to talk about that a little bit?
She is badass. You are badass, Mary McDonnell. So it came out of Badass Mary, Lady Bam.
And Badass Mary
Yes.
came from a fan who put it on a
mug.
a mug and sent it to our set.
That's right.
And we were so tickled by it. But I have to go back even further because Stacey, I don't think Stacey has ever called me Mary.
I don't think I have. I think I always call you Madam President.
First Madam President, then Lady Bam. When I first met Stacey on the set of The Closer, we'll talk about that. Like,
I think
Madam
I
President.
think you had to say to me, I have to be Sharon Rader. Because I kept saying, Madam President. And
How would you like your hair?
How would you like your hair today, Madam President? I think for a while you put up with that. It was cute for a minute, and then it was like, I can't be Laura Roslin right now. I have to be Sharon Rader.
I think I had to give you a little
So then it
talking
became
to.
Lady Bam.
Yeah. So Stacey likes that kind of thing, I think. And
do.
I must say that Stacey, one of the reasons I wanted to have Stacey on first is that, Stacey, your career or careers, your life, your ability to, I would say fearlessly, but I know you too well.
Right.
I know that you do have fears, and you do all of this anyway.
Correct.
And that's one of my favorite things about you. Stacey, with fears in tow, manages to break down doors in multiple areas professionally as a woman. And her whole journey has been so extraordinary and idiosyncratic. Like, there is nothing about Stacey K. Black's brand, because it's a brand now, even though you would never call it that. Yeah, see, you don't know. Oh my God, a branding company would go berserk with you. There's nothing about it that is reminiscent of anyone before you. You are one of a kind, and at this point in our culture, I think that men and women around you who may not know about you, and certainly those who know you quite well because they're already fans of your work in all these areas, would like to hear a little bit more about how you have done this. So, you know, if you look at Stacey K. Black's IMDb and you just print up the opening page, I'm just going to read this out loud
This
because
is awesome.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. Filmography. So then now we have the list of what Stacey has done inside the world of entertainment.
A little bit.
Makeup department 50, director 9, soundtrack 6, writer 4, producer 4, music department 5, art department 1, composer 3, camera department 2, editor 2, sound department 1, actress 1, cinematographer 1, self 2. I mean, I have never in my entire career seen anything like this.
Hilarious. Do you know I'm going to have a food stylist pretty soon because of Jonathan DeLarco's
You were the
shorts.
food stylist on his remarkable short.
I was the hairdresser.
Jonathan DeLarco.
/ food stylist.
Oh my God.
I
Okay,
remember
so
one.
Jonathan DeLarco shot a beautiful short.
Tea with Alice.
That's right, Tea with Alice.
So
and
good.
it's beautiful. He'll be releasing it soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
And Stacey was his food.
Hair and food stylist.
Hair and food
but not at the
stylist on
same
the
time.
film.
That would be very unhygienic. So I did wash my
Wow.
hands in between each.
Well, good. Okay, that's great. Anyway, okay, so Stace. Then I went into your Stacey K. Black music, and
Look at you.
I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 songs that you've released, originals, and I didn't even get into albums. I mean, I haven't even really opened any of this up.
You
Do
are
you know
so
what I'm
cute.
saying?
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. Let's start in high school.
Let's start in high school.
Yeah.
Wow. Big awkward kid with a love of music and art.
Yeah.
And was in the band. And band was the best thing that ever happened. Like Andy Sachs was in band too, and he said he loved being in the marching band because he had 144 friends that vast. And that's true about the marching band. Like,
Absolutely.
you travel on buses together, you're like,
Yeah.
you're buddies. I
Right.
don't remember ever having a disagreement with somebody in band.
Wow.
Or a fight, or that doesn't really happen because you're all, you're all in the same mindset. You're all
It's a
love
tribe.
the same thing. Yeah. So I was going to go that route. I was going to be a professional flautist, you guys. I went to school at my
Okay, so say that again. I was going to be a what?
professional flautist.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's
In
amazing.
symphony.
I thought you said florist. That's just because I'm
Flautist.
I was like, oh no,
no.
yes.
Flautist.
Flautist.
And so my hometown community college had a really beautiful music program in it, and so I went to some classes after high school the year after, and I wasn't degree seeking. I just wanted to take classes and be in that symphony because they had a great symphony. And so, or a great orchestra. And so I always get the two confused. Symphony is actually the thing you play, right?
Yes.
And then the orchestra is being a part of it. As you can tell, I did not carry on with that route. Then we moved to Florida, and there was no such thing in the town where I was, and I didn't have any grades to go to a real university and stuff. So anyway, my other big love was movies. And so I moved to Orlando, Florida, got into that, and
How did you get into that, though? This is what I'm saying.
I
It's
see.
like, how does the get into part happen?
I guess that I was working at an ad agency as a receptionist, and then I saw that Universal Studios was hiring, and I became a receptionist for planning and development. I went and had an interview. I think I remember that I had a big run in my pantyhose, so I took them off, and I made the ladies laugh because I said I don't usually go bare-legged or something, and they laughed, and I got the job. And I think thank you for making me go back to like the how of it, because I think that's been it.
Because you made them laugh.
Make them laugh.
Stacey, that's brilliant.
And so from there I got to be a PA on a show called The Adventures of Superboy, which was Clark Kent as a college student. Hilarious. And there wasn't a Lois Lane, there was a Lana Lang.
oh,
Played
my
by Stacey
goodness
Hyduke.
sakes.
You know Stacey Hyduke? She's awesome. I still keep in touch with her. She's amazing. Anyway, and from there I saw hair and makeup people, and I got to do a little bit of every job, and I loved what they did. And me being so naive, I thought, I'm going to get in hair and makeup because they're close to directors, actors, producers, writers. They're part of creating a character, and I'm going to be able to be a writer and a director through hair and makeup, which is never going to happen.
Well, let me just say, though, it is a case.
yet it
You
did.
said, you said because you were naive. And I think that is part of the key to this, is that I had a little bit of that in my own career. There was no prep for any of it. Like, there was nobody around me. It was like, oh, well, you just do this.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the route. But if you said that out loud to an agent in an interview or something, they'd be like, it's not going to happen, honey.
But it did
It did.
for both of us.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
So but here's the other part about the naivete of that, in that, though, is a very smart person, because you couldn't have been more right. Hair and makeup, you get to see everything. Mm-hmm. You are on the set all the time.
Yep.
You are with the actors first thing. You're the first person to hear about everything.
That's right.
The drama. You are doing people's hair while the executive producers and the actors are having a very deep and sometimes conflicted conversation about the script. You have writers coming back into the trailer. So it's like the hub. Mm-hmm. It is the hub, communications hub of a set.
If you pay attention, you can learn a lot.
How did you know that, though, is what I'm saying? How did you, where does the permission, this is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Because we all need that kind of permission to follow our impulses, as opposed to go through the proper channels to create something. I mean, I'm sitting in a room right here with 3 ladies, and none of you have just one career.
That's right.
And,
it's true.
and that's partially why I wanted you here today, too, is that I think that's by necessity and by the world speeding up, which I believe it actually is. Time is actually moving faster, like by science. It really is moving faster. So we're being thrown into functioning at a much higher level, a much higher vibration.
Right.
And I'm seeing particularly women, and I think it's because I'm hearing from women more than men, but any men out there, I want to hear from you. But I'm seeing that women who have a natural multitasking impulse are translating that now professionally.
May I?
Yes.
I was at the DGA Awards recently,
Yes.
and every woman who was introduced to present was a multi-hyphenate. She directed, she wrote, she was an actor, she was a producer. Like, there was not one female presenter who was a director.
So why do we think that is? Let's talk about that just for a second.
I think women have to create their own content, mostly. I mean, can I say something without being sexist?
You can say whatever you want. We don't really...
There's a director. I don't know if I should say it. I don't know if we should put this out. There's a director named Colin Trevorrow who did a couple small things, and Steven Spielberg saw him and said, "He reminds me of a young me. I'm going to have him direct Jurassic World." From this to that, women have to make 14 shorts and produce their own things and make their own movies and raise their own funds, and to get to the point where they can say, Patty Jenkins, you've done 1,000,000 trillion things. Let's give you Wonder Woman.
I understand what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
What about you? Say something about this, Chelsea, about multi hyphenate. And I'll go back to this. I'm putting a pin in that story.
So I kind of, my industry span so many different things. I run a blog. I work with kids. I work on this podcast. I work in social media. It's kind of all over the place. Part of that is because so many different skills translate to other things. And in this industry, really any industry, but being a woman, like, you have to fight. You have to fight to be heard, and it's not just enough anymore to be the best and be noticed for that. And the idea of be so good they can't ignore you is amazing, but when you're a woman, it's like you have to step it up, and that means, again, like raising your funds, doing a bunch of stuff, building your own thing, building your own connections, whereas I know a ton of men that just like step into roles and they're like, I just do this one job, and I can't do that. I would love to have just one job, but I have so many other things that I want to focus on. And it's kind of like, well, not one thing's going to fund all this other stuff I want to do.
I understand
so you
that.
kind
That's
of
it.
financially, I'm an older millennial, guys, but there's no one job that will pay for your life anymore. You kind of have
won't.
to.
That's
and if
exactly
you want
right.
to follow your bliss and follow what makes you happy and be good at that, you have to multitask, because
Yes.
you can't make money doing one thing and then pursue a hobby.
Right.
You just
Right.
can't.
Right.
That's the world we're in.
Yeah. So what about you, Mina?
I mean, I think part
As
of
a
it is that women
multi-hyphenate.
do have to multitask. Part of it is, at least for me, I like the freedom of being able to dabble in a bunch of different things.
Right.
And being able to find, in my 20s, I had a job that, that has no connection to what I do now, except that it was very fast paced and it was high stress. And I kind of found that I did well in that kind of figure out what's going on and find a way to make it make sense. And it translated to what I do now. But they didn't ever, there's no connection between them. But I like being able to say I do a little of this and I do a little of that. And what I find is everything informs everything else. And when you do multiple things, a lot of times it helps everything.
Yeah.
That's great. So, Mina, I'm going to stop you right there because I work with Mina in several different capacities. So I'll have to call Mina. I'll have to call her about the podcast, or I'll have to call her about MajorCrimesTV.net when we were doing the show. Or I will have to call her, talk to her about what we're trying to do with these conventions that shit all over the world. We work together on those and stuff. And I'll be like, is this a good time to talk? And she'll say, yeah, I'm just out here with the horses. Okay. Now, the first time I heard that, I was like, you're what? She goes, yeah, I'm kind of like out in the field. I'm kind of out here in a field with the horses. And then, what are you doing? I'm taking care of my horses. So, Mina, talk about your horses.
Yes.
Talk about your horses.
So my original background was I grew up wanting to be a vet and work with animals and, had animals growing up. And I worked in veterinary medicine through my 20s. And that was sort of my first career. And then when I started moving into what I do now, I kind of gave up the horses for a while and I sold most of them and just had a couple. And then like 2 years ago, a friend of mine got into racehorse rescue and was
that's
rescuing
nice.
racehorses. And because when they finish running, they generally get thrown out or they get sent to slaughter or they break down. And so she started doing that. I'm like, oh, that's nice. And then within like 6 months, I had like racehorses. So I have a small gaggle of racehorses in various stages of rehabilitation and training. And then when they get ready, then they go find homes. And then someone calls me and say, hey, will you take this? Otherwise, it's going to be a sandwich next week. So then I take it.
I love that.
Isn't that amazing?
I
So
love
it's
that.
like, we just like in this room alone, we have a lot of careers, and I don't want to just call them careers because they are careers and they're all in different stages of being a career.
And passions.
But their interests and their commitments and and here's another thing that I find that women do: they respond to a need in the world. So that is something I think that that is inherent in the feminine energy on the planet is a sort of ability to respond to multiple needs at once. That's just inherent in the feminine. You see it as the planet, right?
Right.
And the masculine principle in the world is sort of singularly focused as a principle, right? Action, accomplishment, saving, protecting, whatever those things are, but they're all within kind of one area primarily. So I do think, as in gender, in terms of our gender, we do carry certain inherent energetic impulses that create some of this. But I think what we're seeing now is that as women are becoming more and more involved in creating the outer world, which we certainly are, we're changing the landscape of what a life looks like.
Yeah.
We're changing the landscape of what career means. Part of it is we're being forced to, because as you brought up that wonderful story about, of course, Steven Spielberg naturally projected saw this young man's work. And that's what men have always done.
Right.
And so they project themselves onto a younger talent and say, I'm going to reach out and lift you up.
And it's great.
Right.
Right.
It is great. But women are very rarely the beneficiary of that kind of projection from someone who's ahead of us.
Well, usually
Right?
the ones who are ahead of us aren't women.
They're not women, or the men aren't
They don't see
used
themselves.
to. They don't see themselves in the
us.
woman.
That's
They,
right.
You know what they often see is their mother.
Yeah.
And so it can go either way. You know what I mean, depending on the yada yada.
Yeah.
But so it is. So that
Makes
whole
sense.
idea of women are being forced by evolution to create what it means to be a professional woman from the energies of the feminine, as opposed to trying to fit ourselves in, which is kind of, I grew up being a woman who was told she could do anything that men can do. But I hadn't seen yet many pathways that weren't male, the pathway of the man. So if you could figure out how to compete in a man's world, you might step forward.
Right.
I grew up in a very strong, as you know, 5 sisters, like really go-getters.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I did not fit into that paradigm. I did not fit into the academic competitor, high-achieving. I was an artist who didn't know she was an artist. And so that was the naivete I brought to it, and it actually kind of helped me too. But here we are with Stacey. And Stacey is one of the women, as she stated, the fact that Stacey was even at the DGA Awards given, where, you know what I mean? Like,
Well-
okay, isn't she a hairdresser? I mean, you know what the men
I
do?
know,
yeah.
I know.
So
Well, you know what I did there?
what did you do?
The very first year I was in the DGA, I was able to go to the DGA Awards. So I bought 2 tickets, took Greg Lavoie, and we had literally the very worst seats in the house. Like the table in the corner farthest from the stage with our backs to the stage.
Oh, I know. I know the DGA
Okay.
Awards.
And the table next to us was Ron Jeremy biting his nails. Anyway, and so, but hey, he was there too because he's a director. So the next time I went, I called a bunch of lady directors and I said, let's have a lady director table. So that was 4 years ago. And so we had a table of mostly lady directors, and some of them brought their +1 arm candies, their men, their husbands, their boyfriends.
I love it.
Which is a little, just a flip,
Right.
just
Yeah,
a
yeah,
flip.
yeah.
Did it again last year, I had 2 tables. Did it again this year, I had 3 tables.
What?
Yeah, it was so much fun. And so what I do is I throw an email out to all, and then this year we opened it up to ladies of the DGA, production managers, first
Right.
aid, any ADs,
Right.
anybody in the
Anyone
DGA.
in the DGA, yeah.
And then next year I think I'm going to open it up to men too, but people of color, like Shalene and, you know.
Yes.
So I had them all send their reservation forms into the DGA and state that you want to be at Stacey K. Black's tables. And so when they all started coming in, they called me. They said, "Why are you so popular?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not. I'm arranging it. It's not that they all want to be at my table. It's like they want to be at the women's force table, you know."
No, but once again,
agree.
it goes back to your sense of humor.
Yeah.
On some levels, like let's
do
make
it.
our own little tables.
Make our
Let's call
tables.
it something.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And we had I had a suite that I rented at the hotel that night,
Yeah.
and they upgraded me to like the penthouse suite, and so I had all the ladies
Now,
come
why
up.
did they upgrade you to the penthouse suite?
Well, I went to check in, and the lady who was checking me in, I said, I'm so excited that I'm gonna have like 25 ladies up to my room and for a pre-party, because I told everybody, come to my room first,
Yeah.
And she's like, you're not gonna fit 25 ladies in your room. I said, I got a suite. She goes, no. Here you go, got the penthouse suite. Like for
Lovely.
for
Yes.
a song.
Yeah.
And so we had like 25 or 30 ladies coming in and out, and then royalty came. Leslie Linka Glatter came to the party, and everybody was like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "Oh, I have arrived." To my party.
Oh, so great, Stacey.
We had like Mary Lou Belli was there, and Maria Burton, and all these cool chicks came, and Zatna Fuentes, and people who we don't get to see all the time, and we know of.
So I would like to put my reservation in for next year's DGA, and we'll do a podcast
I love that.
at the party.
Yeah.
I would love that. Would you come as my +1 next year?
Oh yeah!
Oh, yeah!
Oh my God! Are you kidding?
Awesome.
I presented
Done.
at the DGA a couple of years ago. Were you?
I must
don't
not
know
have
if
been
you were
there.
there yet. I don't know. I guess it was more than a couple then.
Maybe. I've only gone 4 times altogether, and I've been in the DGA for 8 years. I didn't go every year.
Oh, you didn't go every
Right,
year.
right.
Okay,
But
so
the past 3 I've gone.
yeah. So, and I think the DGA is a really great example, actually, of all the award shows. It's the most male. There are less women in the room than any other award show.
I got 3 tables full of them this
And
year.
now, and there's a perfect example,
Yeah.
of how it's starting to change. I remember the last time I was at the DGA Awards presenting, I said, wow, this still is, it hasn't changed much. And by the way, all the presenters were actresses in big shoes and short skirts.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I was one of them. So I'm not like, you know what I mean? It's not like, but I just looked around and I go, okay, here we all are sitting together, the stable of presenters. And I look, and we're right here, right next to the stage, and down on the floor, there were probably 10 to 15 tables of men,
Yeah.
occasionally a woman, men in suits.
Yep.
Talking very intensely.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really the most male award show there is.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to bring it up in this discussion because
It's getting so much
there's
better.
so many great men in there and they're so inspiring, and we've all been inspired by great directors. But it's getting better. It's
getting better,
it's
Getting
women like
bigger.
you. It's women like you who are kind of playfully forcing the door open. What you just did by creating 3 tables is pushed at the door a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, a director named Elodie Keene. You guys know her? She's
No.
awesome. Anyway, she wasn't going to go. And she said, I'm going to go this year. I like that you're arranging these tables. I'm going to go this year. So there were a few other girls who were like, I'm not going to go, or I'm sorry, women. I'm not nominated. Who cares? Let's go and celebrate our career. And so,
Right.
come on, let's show up.
And I think that is part of what has to happen with all of us, Stacey. It's an internal shift to get past the sensation of I'm not part of the boys' club. I'm just going to say, fuck it or frack it, whatever. And so there's a different response.
Yeah.
There's a different response to staying hidden. It's perfectly understandable for me when women are reluctant to continue to push themselves out there. It's too hard sometimes. But to find a playful way to not be hidden this time.
we had a blast.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that is so great.
We had a blast. We posed for pictures in front of the Step and Repeat giant. The picture made it into the DGA Monthly. Like, yeah, it was really cool. It was
That's awesome.
We were having a great time. We weren't
cool.
storming the castle. We were there joining in, having a great time.
That's right.
And the party helped. Just to
Yeah.
get everybody loosened up, had a lot of wine and stuff.
Yeah. And that is a very feminine thing to do that you did.
Yeah.
You did a very feminine thing, which was to say, let's party, girls.
Let's party.
And let's party before the party.
That's right.
And let's see how everybody's dressed and make sure we all have great makeup and hair.
right.
And, I mean,
Yeah.
there's to me, that's part of what we have going for us, even though I grew up in the age of sort of denying all that, which was necessary too. As a feminist, we had to sort of become men for a while. I've seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, not the whole thing. It started hundreds of years
Yeah.
ago, but I've been on the planet now for a while and I've watched it, you know.
That's right.
And I remember one of the things I loved about Gloria Steinem was that she had this long, gorgeous hair and wore the best glasses.
Yep.
And she just was beautiful and she didn't seem angry.
Right.
She was furious.
Right.
She was the most articulate fury on the planet at the
right.
time until Hillary found her, you know, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she was just beautiful. Like like you said, we didn't like bang the doors down, but it's a tricky thing to figure out how to be a woman who's pushing open doors and to continue to own your playfulness. I think that's what I'm trying to get
Yeah.
at here because it's one
That
of the
sounds
things I
right.
love about you.
You have to be
Yeah.
creative to find the way in. It's not
Yeah.
just, you know, if we just go bang on the door, sometimes that works, but a lot of times it just gets the door pushed
Yeah.
back at us.
Right.
But you find, you know, I don't know if there's a job I've gotten that didn't require me kind of figuring out how's the best way, like you
Right.
getting into the directing through the hair,
Right.
figuring out where's the opening here and how might that shift.
Right.
And, you know, I think that's just become necessary
Right.
in everything, and especially when we're trying to push the envelope or make
Right.
something available that hasn't generally been. You kind of have to do it kind of through whatever
Yeah.
you can figure out.
Well, when I started doing the hair, I realized, this isn't a conventional route to directing and writing and producing.
But you always knew that was the end game.
But that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm not going to get there from here. So I was always writing scripts, and I was always trying to get people to read my scripts and everything. And I for a while, I got a little lost in the hair because it was fun.
Oh,
I made
you're
it
so good at it.
so sweet. I made a good living at it.
Yeah.
I got to be in the world. It almost got to the point where I was, well, okay, this is good enough.
Yeah.
This is good. I'm in the world
Yeah.
I want to be in. I get to be around all the storytellers because everything I do, all the things I do, are all storytelling.
Yes.
Music and writing and directing, all that stuff. And so for a while it was good enough.
Yeah.
And then it got to be not good enough again.
Yeah, I
And so
remember.
because of then I made a couple short films, but it was James and
Yeah.
Mike and
Yeah.
Kira and
Yeah.
just to look at my short films and go, this is unconventional, but she can do it.
Yeah.
Let's let her do it. You
Yeah.
know, and I think it's also because I had asked so many people to read my scripts and throughout the 20 years I was doing hair and stuff, and they just didn't take me seriously. And I think it was knowing that these are the people that are going to take me seriously.
You knew that.
I felt that they might be. I felt that Mike for sure.
Mike Robin.
Yeah, Mike Robin,
Yes.
for sure.
For all of you who don't know, Mike Robin he was an executive producer on The Closer and Major Crimes and many other things.
Yes.
So we've worked with him for lots of years.
Yeah.
And Stacey worked with him even
On Nip
before
Tuck.
that on Nip Tuck.
Yes, he and Greer Shepard on Nip Tuck. So they knew me. They knew I
Yeah.
had aspirations like for a long time, and the fact that I gave 150% of myself doing hair, wanting to do something else so badly, they took me seriously. And so I kind of figured. I thought maybe these are the people. And so I started making films on Nip Tuck in The Closer, and then asked Mike.
So when you say you started making films, what? What do you
Oh,
mean? How
so-
did you do that?
well, like
You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
how do you make a film?
Well,
like
okay.
from just
Yeah. Well, okay. So I had given people scripts in the past. People
Yeah.
on shows like I'd worked on Providence and a bunch of other shows, and I'd give
Yeah.
people scripts to read. And I realized that that's not enough. You have to, instead of saying I have a script here, read this. I had to say, I wrote a script, read it. I had to say I wrote this, watch it.
Oh wow, that's great.
So I could say, put it in your DVD player. And so on Nip Tuck, I asked a bunch of people, if you're going to work for free, you better get a step up on the ladder.
yeah.
So I asked like the one of our electricians, Annie. I asked her to be the DP.
Right.
So I asked one of the grips to be the key grip, so they could get that next rung, the next step up, whatever. And my friend Aaron Kruger and I,
Yeah.
and Andy Sachs and Pat McKee produced it. We shot it at my house, and it was a scene from a movie I was writing that I expanded into a short film, and it is terrible.
What's it called?
It is terrible.
What's it called?
It's called Blue Moon. And I watch it now and I just cringe because the writing is so poor, right? And I love my words so much in it. But then the next one I shot on the set of The Closer, I asked Mike, can I shoot on a Saturday in one of the old interrogation rooms? He said, sure. And they let us, use equipment, and they got us a caterer. It was just really,
really nice.
Yeah. So I know he was like doing one of these, like looking at me, like, what is she doing? She's doing some stuff. Okay.
Yeah, let's let her see what she does.
And that one starred Philip Keane, our own Buzz Watson.
Yeah.
And 2 of our stand-ins. I had auditions and everything. And that one I can still watch.
What's it called?
The Truth is Underrated.
Right.
You can find that on, I think you can find it on YouTube. That one I can still watch. I'm still proud of that one.
Yeah.
So at least I can see the evolution. Like,
Yes.
I didn't just do 2 bad ones. So
Right.
anyway, that was the one that Mike and Greer and James watched and,
Right.
and said, okay, we're going to give you a shot. Do not mess it up.
And then what happened?
And then I got to do my first episode with Lady Bam.
Oh my gosh.
Which was the best episode ever. And it didn't get messed up, and so I got to do another one. And then it's continued on into today.
Right.
And what NCIS New Orleans is airing tonight. It's just,
Okay, so wait a minute.
you say, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, how did I get here? I say that a lot.
Yeah, you say it a lot. And what I'm hearing over and over again, it comes back to the beginning of what we asked you and you responded to, which is there is something that we have to carry internally in order to be able to say to, the key grip or an electrician or somebody, will you work on my movie when you're doing hair? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, you can imagine a different result.
I can imagine.
Or a different response.
I can now. I probably couldn't then. Of course they're going to want to help me. We're friends.
Right. We're friends.
friendly. We work together. We like each other.
Together. We like each other. So you didn't carry stratification.
I'm not sure what that means.
It means that inside of you don't see the different levels as blockades.
Oh.
You don't see that because this person is a professional lighting designer or whatever, that they may not want to spend a Saturday on a film
from
the hairdresser wrote.
hairdresser.
Or that perhaps you shouldn't bother the executive producer with it. I mean, you just...
I can sometimes feel that. Like, it took me a long time to ask Mike.
Okay. So talk about the fear.
I had to have a couple of things under my belt that I was, okay with. The Truth is Underrated, I thought was better than Blue Moon, but I gave them both.
Yeah.
Just thinking, I didn't know at the time how bad that one was. I mean, I love it still because Greg Lavoie is in it, and it's really fun. But it's hard to listen to. But you had to, you have to go. I had to say to Mike, Robin, I had to say, I'm going to ask you for more. And every year they gave me a raise. I was a spoiled, rotten hairdresser. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Spoiled.
Yeah.
Beyond spoiled.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to ask you for more than you give me, and I don't want you to. I'm going to start crying. I don't want.
SRH, I'm going to call you now.
What's that?
Spoiled rotten hairdresser
I
instead
was
of SKB.
spoiled rotten.
Right?
Spoiled rotten. And I said, I don't want you to feel that I'm greedy. I don't want to appear greedy, but I'm going to ask you for more. And I would like to. I know you're going to start promoting from within soon. Maybe you'll start bringing directors up from inside and here in my
Why
short
did
films.
you know they were going to promote from
I figured
within?
they would. It was season 3, and that's the kind of guy he was.
Okay, that's the kind of guy he was, because they don't all do that.
Oh, yeah, no, they don't all do it.
No.
But I figured, I said, if you do, I figured you
Right.
might, if you do. I know it's not conventional, but I hope you'll keep me in mind. And
Right.
Here are my 2 shorts. And I said, and now I've done my job. I've asked for the opportunity. Now I'm going to go throw up. Like, those are the exact words I said to him.
And I'm going to validate this because I was lucky enough to witness Stacey at not that moment, but later on in her career, she was making bigger and bigger steps out. And I know what you suffered to get past the fear and go do it and then go throw up. And I think that's really important to share because I quite often think, particularly younger women, have missed the information about the step about fear. Like, we carry it. And this is a very scary world for women. It's a very scary world for all of us. But the backlash right now against this, the outpouring of women's strength and ownership is pretty severe in the world. So there is going to be fear and to sort of assume that you won't be because you've got the tools and you're equipped and you've been smart your whole life. There will be moments of terror before you take these steps. And so,
Absolutely.
like, what is it? Like when you're like, and you know you have to go up and have that meeting.
Yeah.
And how do you get there? What do you say to yourself? What is it you said to yourself?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think I don't think there's anything I said to myself. I think it's just, well, if you don't, you're going to be really mad. If you
Well,
don't
there
at least
you go.
ask, you're going to be really mad at yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
You have to go for it.
Yeah.
Like people say, oh, you're always so busy. You never have any time off or whatever. And I go, what else am I going to do?
Right.
Except do what I want to do. Like do what I
Yeah.
love. I'm not going to, I don't know. You have to go for it. You have to we have one time.
Yeah,
One
it's
show,
short, right?
It's short. So let's have fun with it and do exactly what you want to do. And of course, there's that weird little thing I think a lot of people have. Like, I'd like to leave something behind.
Oh, that's not weird at all.
You know, I'd like to leave something behind that lives.
Yeah.
Because we're all going to go.
Yeah, we're all going to go. I mean,
Not to
go
get too
anytime.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the fear is real.
It is real.
Especially in me, it's
I
not
don't-
debilitating.
Yeah.
But man,
This is what I would say from what I know about you, is that the fear is real, but I wouldn't say especially in you. I would say that you experience your fear, very fluidly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people's fear, a lot of women's, we've had to repress our fear as opposed to use it as a catalytic energy and then transform it. You know what I mean?
very honest about it. When I'm terrified, I'm not worried
That's
about
right.
hiding it.
That's what I'm trying to get
Because
at.
that's
Doesn't get you anywhere.
no, not only that, I'm going to fumble.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to really hard to act like I'm have it all together when I need help,
Yeah.
I will go to most DPs, let's say on set,
Yeah.
and just say, I need help. I'm
Yeah.
freaking out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what can I do here? What can we do? I'm going to throw up. I'm
yeah.
going to start crying or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that I would do that on set, but I can go to most people and say, I'm really scared right now. Like we had some huge stunts in this episode that's going to air tonight, and I was really afraid. And I took my first AD aside and I said, I'm really afraid. I'm nervous, and I want to make sure that I'm doing everything right for these big stunts. So I'm going to go do this, and this.
Right.
Are those the right things to do? Because he does this every week.
Yeah.
We had 8 stunts in this show. We had giant car stunts and everything. And so I admitted to my fear. This is what I want to go do. He says, I think that's what you should go do. And I went and did it. And I pulled cameras out of the way. Like, I didn't think it was, I think it's okay to admit you're afraid.
Well, that's a really important thing. I just read recently something that Oprah said, which I found fascinating, is she was being interviewed by someone, and this person said something to her about her success and her ability, talk about multitasking and
My God.
branding one's life and giving your all, right? And someone brought up to her, they said something like, you seem to have been able to accomplish all this despite your vulnerability. And Oprah said, no, because of my vulnerability. And for some reason, she exemplifies that. Like, and that's what you're talking about, which is, let's rethink, women, the message that we got, which was to tough it out and hide our fear. Let's rethink that. Because we're seeing examples now that owning it and having it be part of the conversation and letting it be is actually very catalytic.
Yeah.
And gets a better result than you would think.
And also sometimes,
Right?
if you've seen some women who are trying to tough it out and be strong and be powerful. Don't try to be powerful. Don't try to be powerful. Just be powerful.
Well, just be powerful.
Be
Oh my
powerful.
God, that throws me into like an apoplectic.
Just-
okay, I'm just going to be
Don't
powerful.
just be honest.
What does that mean?
Just be honest.
Yeah.
Because if you've seen, we've all seen women who are trying really hard to be powerful and the boss, and they just turn everybody off.
It's really difficult.
Just be you.
Yeah.
And that's so
so
hippy
hard.
dippy, isn't it?
It is.
But it's like, I
But
think
it's true. It's the hardest thing. It is the hardest thing. But once you
people
start to
respond
get
to it and they
once
appreciate
you start
it.
to get up, the hang of it, it becomes easier to practice being you, and it becomes there's no other. You're not going to get. Listen, if we're all interested in legacy, the only way to leave something behind that will last is to find something authentic.
Yeah.
And give it. You know what I mean? Let's get to some of the questions from
Ooh,
fans.
questions.
Yeah, we had some great questions that people sent in. So, Stacey, you've both directed your own projects that you've written, and then you've directed for like The Closer and Major Crimes and now NCIS. How do those processes differ in terms of what you can do as a director?
That's such a great question.
Yeah, I
'Cause
loved
it's-
it.
Who is it from? Do you know? Or
I
did you combine ones?
combined several.
So quite a
but
few
few
wanted
people
that.
asked different versions of the same
that's
question.
awesome.
And so,
That's a great
Yeah.
question. And there's a huge difference between being a gun for hire,
Mm-hmm.
having a network give you $3 million to make their, what their product,
Right.
and then raising your own $50,000 and making your own project. It's just apples and oranges, really. When you're the boss and the buck stops with you, that's it. Oh, so much. It's actually so much more fun. But you have less money and you have less time and you have less highly skilled people. Like for Trouble Creek, which you can find on YouTube, we didn't do the go up the rung.
For those of you who don't know, Trouble Creek is a web series that Stacey and our beloved Shea Butler created, and it's winning awards
Everywhere.
All over the place.
the place.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
It's awesome. It stars Jason Gedrick, Deborah Ferrantino, Dean Cameron, and a bunch of other really cool
fabulous
actors.
actors.
Fabulous cast.
Wonderful.
So we did this right. We did this with money, and we hired a DP. We hired
much
camera
money?
operators. We spent over $50,000, but I don't want to go into exacts. I don't even know exactly what it was right now.
Right.
But it was. We had a couple investors help us out and stuff.
Yeah.
We raised money. We didn't.
raise money singing.
And we raised money singing. That's right. Thank you.
did.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for contributing.
Well, that's not why I brought
No,
it
but-
up.
but you
It's
did.
just,
A big chunk.
What did you call it? What
It was my birthday, so we had a concert window living room birthday show. Me and my friend Dave, who's also one of our executive producers, financiers, and it's in episode 2 of Trouble Creek, playing guitar and singing. So we did a birthday show on my birthday and had some cool rewards, and people would tip and they would get rewards.
Right, and remember, right before it started, there was a glitch.
Yes, it was a big glitch.
She had people like all over the world waiting. And she's like, oh my God.
It was amazing.
And you admitted that. That's why I'm imitating
Yeah.
you, because she put herself on camera when actually it
Yes.
started working, and she was like,
Oh my
"I can't
God.
breathe."
Yes. Yeah, that's
Okay,
terrifying.
so go ahead.
Yeah. So
Trouble Creek.
so we hired the heads of departments and stuff were
Right.
already established people. But then we did hire people underneath them who weren't as skilled.
Right.
Didn't have as much experience. Shouldn't say as skilled. Didn't have as much experience.
Right.
So you don't know always what you're going to get. And anyway, so it's harder to do that kind of thing without as much budget. But it's also easier because you don't have to please 55 people
Right.
that you do as a hired director. And I know it's hard for some people to go on a set as a director. You're there for 15 days. You got, 7.5 days to prep, 7.5 days to shoot, and then you're out.
Yeah.
You skim in and skim out. But in that time, you have to please the showrunner, the writer, the actors, the DP. You have to please the DP. Now, the DP is supposed to be pleasing you. You have to please the DP because he knows the show or she knows
Right.
the show. He does it. They do it every week. So you have to please everybody, and then hopefully you get to please yourself as well. And but I don't think it's difficult. But it's if you do your research and you learn the show, and you don't come to the DP and say, I want to do this, which is completely opposite of what they
Yes.
usually do.
Yes.
You're going to be okay.
Right.
But I have heard some horror stories about
Well,
the people.
I think the horror stories come from people who don't respect the product
Yeah.
before they go into it.
I think so,
which is
too.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to
In
do
my experience, on the
I-
other side,
I get it.
I've seen the directors who don't really want to shoot the show.
Then why are they there? Because I do. I want
They
to
wanna
shoot the show.
use the show to direct. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So they don't really understand the show.
You know what's really funny? I've been in crew for such a long time.
Yeah.
I've been a crew member for such a long time. My entire career as a hairdresser has been to please,
Right.
which is fine because I go now. I want to please.
Yeah.
I want to make. I want to make the product that you've created. Like I want to make an episode of Major Crimes. I want to make an episode of NCIS New Orleans, which are completely
yeah.
different shooting styles. And so
Yeah.
before I went to shoot my first one last year, I watched every episode twice and like really studied.
Yep.
And then also I knew the characters in and out, and I could talk to the actors about what happened season 1. Now this is season, last year was season 3, and they loved that. They're like,
Yes.
oh, you really
Oh my God,
understand.
yes. Are you kidding me? I mean, every actor on a television show has had the experience with a director who comes in to do an episode, and they give you a direction, and you say, "Ooh, excuse me, that really isn't. It's not appropriate to the experience of my character." Well, what happened with your character? Where'd you come from? Well, they don't know anything about it. Should I say that all over again?
No, we're okay. I just want to not have to change.
I was eating cheese, everybody, and so I took my microphone and I pushed it down by my chin so you wouldn't hear me chewing the crackers. And then I started talking without it, so Chelsea just saved my ass. Okay.
I love that.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but directors are really the only one, like when you go into a series, directors are the only ones who aren't really part of the week-to-week company. So they can become stepping in
That's right.
to a brand new situation that
That's
they've
right.
not dealt with.
That's
and everyone
exactly
else
right.
has been there.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
weeks,
right.
months, years, and the director's like shows up.
Well, the director better have done their homework.
Yeah, that's what she's talking about.
You
You're
better-
really
you
talking
know.
about the homework.
Prep.
The prep.
Like, just like what you said was some directors don't respect the show.
They don't.
Well, you better respect the show.
Right.
I don't know. I can't imagine, and I've heard horror stories. I can't imagine directors coming into a show not having watched every available episode. Like even this year, I was going to only be able to see up till, I guess, 9.
Yeah.
So I said, can I please get the scripts for
Right.
9 through, mine, so
Yeah.
I can still know what's going on
Yeah.
prior to. I would be terrified to walk on a stage
Right.
not having watched the show.
Yeah.
Trying to direct. The audacity.
Yeah.
And the lack of respect.
Yeah.
I can't
And
imagine that.
it really is, it's a different kind of ego.
I guess
You know what I
so.
mean? It's sort of like, well, there is a certain kind of ego as a director, as a certain kind of ego in the world that says, I don't need all that. I'm just coming in to give you my best. And then there's another kind of ego that says, I'm here to serve the very best in all of us. And
to
if
serve.
I'm stepping into a new situation, I first have to find out what's the very best in you.
Right.
Then I can figure out how I can bring my best to your articulate world. You
right.
know what I'm saying?
That's right.
But that just isn't always the case.
Right.
Right.
But I love how you speak and articulate things. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. There's one.
Oh my God, I ate the cheese. No. Sorry.
When I was this, you know Bethany Rooney.
Yeah.
Director Bethany Rooney. She's another one of my mentors. I have so many lovely mentors. It's ridiculous, including you.
Well, thank you.
Mary McDonnell, Lady Bam, Madam President. Wait, what did you say at one time? I'm Mary Father Muckin McDonnell.
I did say
I
it.
love that.
I'm very funny.
I was taking the Warner Brothers directing program, and Bethany Rooney is still the instructor. And I was having a hard time because we were doing, and I'd already directed 3 episodes, but we were
Wow.
on set directing actors in these little workshop, and I was having a really hard time. The fear.
Yeah.
And so I went, after class one day, I said, "Can you help me? I think it's a stage fright thing or something. I don't get a lot
Yeah.
playing guitar and stuff and singing
Yeah.
so much anymore.
No.
But I get it still going onto a stage and saying, hello, everybody. Look at me and do what I
Yeah.
say. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's tough.
Yeah.
And so she said, kind of what you just did. She said, don't worry about what you can get. Worry about what you can give. So don't worry about getting approval. Don't worry about getting, give them your vision. Give them, the best of you kind of thing. But in order to do that, you have to find out what they're doing.
Yes, you do. And from an actor's point of view, they don't always want to give you all of it. It's a very interesting, ridiculous idea. I'll tell you a good, without talking about
Yeah.
the negative, I'll tell you a positive. When I did Fargo last year, so I came in as the end of season, and it happened really fast. And I said, yeah, of course I can watch some of it. It was starting to air while I was shooting, so I couldn't see a lot of it. He sent me the entire season of scripts. And
that.
no director has ever quite given me all of that. Now, when it came on to the closer had been airing, so I had it all to watch.
Right.
So I had Gil Garcetti telling me about the Justice Department, and so people were like throwing stuff at me, and it was so wonderful. So then I could figure out, how does what then became known as Darth Vader, how is she going to be helpful?
Right.
Like, in what way can she insert a problem.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
But I had to understand the world she was inserting herself into,
right.
other than just having watched it occasionally and gone, I love this show. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, but there are cases where, from the other side, where the actor can't get the information because there's a power structure that says, or there's a belief that is adhered to, unfortunately, by a certain level of this business that says that, you know, you're better off leaving your actors as much in the dark as possible.
Oh,
Because then you can get out of them just what you need and nothing more. You know what I mean?
that's interesting.
It is interesting. And it isn't the healthiest way to go, but all of these things exist out there, and all of them exist, might I say, particularly for women. And that just, so, you know, again, so let's do another question.
Yeah, I want to go back to, you know, your story at the DGA and, you know, this growing table of women. So I've read a lot in like trade publications about the problem of there's not as many women directors out there as there are men.
Not true.
And shows are not hiring.
There's so many women directors.
Are there?
There's so many
So
women directors.
how have you seen, you know, what do you see from your point? And is it changing, or are they, I mean, I feel like I see more women names coming up on the shows I watch, and it's always exciting to see that.
Yeah.
Is it going that direction?
I go to the women's steering committees a lot at the DGA, and it's a giant conference room. It's filled. It's not all directors, but it's filled. There was a post the other day. Somebody put it up. I can't remember who it was, but it said something about, and it was, everything's getting better for women. We're really trying to get young women and people of color. Da 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 da. And I wrote, that's really great. But there are so many other middle-aged women who have been batting around Hollywood, pushing,
And have the
trying-
experience.
trying
Hello.
to swim upstream for so many years. Like, they should, you know, good Lord Almighty. There are a lot of ladies out there who are fantastic. Fantastic. I could name 20 right now, top of my head.
And they've done the work.
They've done the work.
They've done the work, and they've been in the trenches, and they've faced down the politics, and they've beat down the doors.
I can name 30
and that,
right now.
That can create in a person a kind of graciousness that you would think that Hollywood in general would want.
Yeah.
Because we're problem solvers at this age. Not that young women and women of color, my God, this is the greatest time ever in this industry.
I know.
Every single day I cheer because it's like, go girls.
That's right.
Just grab
go,
it
yep.
and keep grabbing. You know,
right.
whatever you can get your hands on. Because we have to change this. It cannot stay this way. But there's, but women themselves, we are a marginalized group.
Yes.
And so, and middle-aged women, and forget about older women, ladies. Can we just, no, we're not going to talk about that. I'm going to save that segment. And then we're going to have, like, Jane Fonda come in. You know
that'd
what
be
I mean?
so cool.
I know, it would be. But, like, anyway, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know if you remember this young lady. She was a PA on Major Crimes a couple days, like an extra PA. Her name is Bola. I think she's Nigerian. Beautiful. Anyway, she made her first short, did really well. She got the notice of Robert Rodriguez, El Mariachi, all that stuff.
Yeah.
She's did another short. It's going to, I think it's South by Southwest. Like, she's kicking ass. And
Good.
But her mentor, one of her mentors is this famous male filmmaker,
Yeah.
which is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be, I have male mentors and female mentors. You don't
Yes.
have to have the same gender, the same culture. You know, anybody in power can raise a hand to help anybody else.
Absolutely.
You know,
I think-
but I love watching her progress. I'm like, she's killing it.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I do remember her now that I think back.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's awesome.
And I think that's a good point. Is what is it that we want out of a mentor, and what is it when we finally are mentored? What has just happened when someone decides to mentor us? It's about somebody sees us, like Steven Spielberg saw, right?
Right.
And they don't necessarily have to see themselves in us, but they see what we are doing.
That's right.
I want to ask Chelsea, have you ever had a mentor?
So interestingly enough, I used to work in the music industry,
I know that.
and Pat Mitchell Worley, if you are listening, I love you. And Wayne Leloy, you were the shit in the best way possible. So I actually, in college, I worked at this local, it was the Memphis Music Foundation. It was a nonprofit, and my entire job was to teach people like about copyrights on their music and setting up MySpace, if this tells you back in the day.
Yeah.
I got the job just because my dad worked in the industry, and so we knew a ton of people in Memphis, and they were like, well, if Chelsea's going to school for music industry, like, let's bring her in.
Right.
So I interned there for a while, and then I don't know exactly what happened, but Pat was like, she just became a really good friend, and she started mentoring me. And for me, it was less of getting opportunities and more of, she recognized that there were skills that I would need within the industry, and she kind of worked to show me them and to help foster them.
That's awesome.
And then Wayne, who he was my first music industry professor in college.
Yeah.
And he kind of took me under his wing, and he'd be like, hey, there's a networking event, you should go. You know, he would send me invites to things. He gave me concert tickets. It
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah.
And he's still very much like involved in things. He's still, up until recently, would be like, hey, Chelsea, this would be a great job for you. You should meet this person. He's part of why I made a shift into social media and ended up in Los Angeles and ended up here.
So his mentoring of you actually really helped carve your path.
Yeah. So I guess in those experiences, and I still have other mentors in different places, and I
Right.
think there's two different kinds of mentors. You have the ones that are like, I see a drive in you, and I'm going to help you get these opportunities and really champion you. And then you have the other mentors, and I feel like that's Pat, being female, kind of saw, especially in the music industry, is such a male-dominated
Yes.
industry.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's getting better, but it's bad. And she kind of saw, well, this is a girl that's wanting to break into the industry. And so instead of saying, here's a bunch of opportunities, it was, here are skills that you are going to need. And so she kind of fostered more of the mental and emotional side
Right,
of me,
right,
whereas
right.
Wayne was definitely fostering more of the career side.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think, having multiple mentors is great. And so that's my experience with it.
Right. Yeah,
Even
totally.
just starting out. So
Yeah. I
know.
think that mentoring itself is also something that is changing the paradigm a little. It's just the idea of there isn't just one path, and for women there can't be just one path because it's too narrow, and there's not enough women who can succeed inside that narrow path. So we have to be mentored in diverse ways and turn around and do the same. But it's a really glorious experience to mentor and be mentored. You know what I mean? Let me ask you, Stacey, about your decision to walk away from hairdressing. That was a big decision.
That was huge.
It was a big
A
decision.
lot of tears.
A lot of tears.
I haven't walked away completely. I still day play now
Yes.
and then. But I lost my insurance through IATSE because I didn't do enough hair last year. I did more directing, so it's like a bittersweet thing. But I still have my insurance, obviously, through DG.
Yeah.
But I had two for a while, which was great. But
I would have gotten everything done.
well, I was okay. So we were on after the closer.
Yeah.
They gave me an episode, my first episode, season 6, which was
Yeah.
Mary McDonnell got to be in my very first episode. I got to have you in my very first episode.
And me, you.
Your Emmy-nominated performance.
Yes.
Love that. And then I got another one.
The
season
great
7.
gesture that we kept trying to repeat over and over
I
again.
know.
What would you call this gesture?
Yes.
Yes, the great yes.
Yes.
But whatever.
Which is always the end of my reel, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Whenever I update my reel, that's the end of the reel.
Yeah.
Another one, season 7. But every time they gave me an episode, I had to take 2 episodes off hair because I had to prep and shoot. So I had to hire somebody in for 2 episodes. So I got 1 a year. So then Major Crimes, I got season 1, 2,
Right.
3. We started season 4, and I thought I couldn't go on meetings.
Right.
I tried to go on a meeting one time for a directing job, and the whole time I was there, I was thinking I'd left my job. I left my job to go do something. What's happening back at work?
Yeah.
You know, the work ethic in me just batted me around. I'm like, I can't do that anymore. So I thought I'm gonna have to. If I want to keep directing and go at other places and direct other places and do more than 1 episode a year,
Yep.
I'm gonna have to stop doing hair full time. So I thought by the end of season 4 I would do that. But then it came around to like episode 3 of season 4. I think I came to you and I said, I think I have to stop. And can you give me some advice? And you said, yeah, you got to stop. So you got to go. You got to go direct. You got to go fly. So I went to Mike and I said, oh, geez, this is so freaking hard. He goes, you got to go, right? And I go, yeah, I got to go.
Yeah.
And so I cried a lot because, again, spoiled rotten, But then, and then I went to James and cried again. And then, but then I got an extra episode that year.
Right.
So then for the run, I got 2 episodes a year.
And what was it like being out in the world, Stacey, at the beginning as a director? So you had let go of that world and you were in this new world. Well, that transition period, describe that a little. Because I think oftentimes, I hear actually oftentimes that women, and certainly men, although I don't hear from them as much, when they're trying to change from one career to another, it's not really the challenges of the new career that scares them. It's that transition. People are so afraid to be in transition.
It was difficult in a couple different ways financially. I refused to take a department head hair job.
Right.
Because then I would be, again.
You'd be full-time,
so I could only do part-time. So my money went down quite a bit for that first year.
Let's go back to the essence of that part, without talking about the friends or whatever, is the transition.
The transition.
That's one of the things I think I'm hearing you say is that part of what's scary about the transition is that will all the people that know me and love me feel threatened by my changing identity?
Yeah.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Because it does, and in this business, it really is like, ooh, it can push people a little bit, and you're risking that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're trying for something I was trying for something that was unheard of.
Right. And when people move forward in this business, there's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of envy.
Yeah.
Around progress.
Yeah. And also I think people were worried about me.
Yeah.
I mean, most people in my life are like, you're going to be great. You're going to kick ass. And then there are some who are like, you are going to fall on your ass.
That's right.
What are you trying to do?
Or you're never going to sleep, Stacey.
There's that too. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's that too. But then getting out there on that, luckily I was raised in Shepherd Robin world where it's kindness for the most part all the time. Like, again, spoiled rotten. So and my directing for my first 5 or 6 episodes was with you guys. Like, I was so supported that the net had no holes in it. I always say that.
Yeah.
So luckily, my first one outside the family was NCIS New Orleans, which is very similar in that they have showrunners here in LA who are the writers. They have a showrunner in Louisiana, in New Orleans, James Heyman, who is an astonishing human. He's married to Annie Potts.
Oh, I love Annie.
And Mike with NYPD got Blue, kind of knew each other from there. So Mike called him.
Yeah.
Got me a meeting, and we talked about guitars for an hour and a half. It was like the best meeting ever.
I remember that.
Yeah. But they're very similar, where it's very nurturing, supportive.
Yeah.
What do you need?
Yeah.
So I was terrible. But now I'm going to go direct Scott Bakula.
Yeah.
My first one out of the gate is.
You grew up watching it.
Freaking out the entire time. But I did my homework and I came in and I knew the script.
Yep.
And first scene I let him know how much I knew the script and we were great. It's fine.
So awesome.
And-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. No, and the DP, Gordon, I've known him since Gordon Lonsdale, since Providence, like when I was
But
doing
that's
hair.
but what you're talking about though is changing. You're walking in to work with a DP
Yeah.
who knew you as a
right.
hairdresser, and suddenly you're on his set,
That's right.
coming in from the outside, and you're going to direct.
And can I tell you what a gentleman
Wow.
Gordon Lonsdale is?
Oh, that's lovely.
He is a very accomplished director of photography.
Yeah.
Very smart, very, very skilled.
Right.
I would say, I would like to do this. Let's
Yeah.
do this. And he would say, I like that. With your permission, could we also add a camera here and do da da da
Oh,
da?
good
And
for
I'm like,
him.
dude, I'm right here. I'm in the palm of your hand, buddy.
Yeah.
Just so kind. With your
Yes.
permission, may I?
Yeah, that's respect.
Gentleman.
Yep.
He does it to everybody.
Yep.
He's just a lovely human. That is,
Yeah.
I needed that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
hear you.
great.
I want to veer over into music for you and your
sure.
life in Nashville. Talk a little bit about how that happened.
Nashville. I have a crush on Nashville.
You do.
I have a huge crush on
Yeah.
Nashville. I'm kind of in love with it now.
Yeah.
More of a love than a crush.
Yeah, it's a long-term
It's a
relationship
long-term
now.
relationship. Long distance, but hey.
How
He's
did
there
you
when I
meet?
need him.
Oh, I met Nashville on Match.com.
Exactly.
Can you believe it? He's so cute.
Do you know how I got there for the first time?
No, that's what I'm
Okay,
asking.
So one of our writer producers on The Closer,
Yeah.
Adam Belanoff,
Oh,
knows
yeah.
everybody in the world. You can name somebody in Oklahoma. Oh, I know that person. He knows everybody. And so he said, he knew that I was a songwriter. He said, do you want to come to coffee and meet Arthur Hamilton? Arthur Hamilton wrote Cry Me a River. I'll cry a river over you. Oh, my God. I said, yeah, I want to come meet Arthur Hamilton. Duh. So while we were having coffee, there was another young lady there as well who was a friend of Adam's who wanted to meet Arthur Hamilton.
Yeah.
And I started talking to her, and I forgot her name, but she was on her way she goes back and forth to Nashville. People had asked me previously, told me you should go to Nashville, but I don't like country music, so I thought it was all country music, and I don't love it. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. But she was going back and forth writing songs with people in Nashville, co-writing, this thing called co-writing, and she did folk rock.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to go to Nashville.
Yeah.
So I went on vacationrentalbyowner.com, found a house, rented it for 2 months, got in my car, drove with my guitar, did open mics 5 nights a week. One of my oldest and dearest friends lives there. So but he's
that
not,
helps,
Yeah, but he's not in the
right?
music scene at all. So
Right,
I was
but
out
he's
by
there.
myself, but he's there. So,
Yeah.
so he works and lives there. So 5 nights a week were the weeknights. The weekends I could hang out with him.
Right.
So I fell in love. I fell in love with, I would go to an open mic on a Monday and I would hear Mina sing and I would say, hi, Mina, I'm Stacey. I loved your song. Where are you going tomorrow night to do open mic?
Yeah.
And then the next night someone would come to me and say, oh my gosh, I love your voice, whatever. We're going to go here tomorrow night. By the end of my 2 months, we're like saving tables for each other at places. And it was and I was only there for 2 months.
That's amazing.
But
and how
Nashville's
long ago was that?
2009.
2009. Yeah.
And then a couple years later, good old Mike Robin.
Yeah.
I was at his house doing something with his kids, and he said, I want to go back to Nashville. I want to do something with those people I met there, something filmic. And he just says, buy a couple cameras, go make a documentary.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that became Send My Mail,
My
to,
Mail to
Nashville,
Nashville,
which
which
is
is
a
now-
fabulous documentary. Go ahead. You can.
It's now a web series also. I cut
Yes,
it into
right.
episodes. It's on YouTube. Send My Mail to Nashville, which is the title is from a song by Trevor Finlay.
Yeah.
Send My Mail to Nashville.
When a musician that you met in Nashville.
That's right.
And fell in love with his music
Absolutely.
as well. He's phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Phenomenal. He's awesome. And
Good human.
They're my other family. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Nashville is an interesting place. Music there is like acting is here, I think.
Yeah.
Everybody's they got all the seminars and the things you can take and
Right.
to learn, and they make a lot of money
Yeah.
on trying to get people to sell their songs. But
Right.
it's not really cutthroaty as much, because if the way it works there, from what I understand, the way it works there is if you go to an open mic night and you hear somebody has a great song and you have a publishing deal at a record company, you can go to that person and say, I have a publishing deal. Let's co-write it. You're great. Let's co-write a song together and get it to our publisher. I can give us a step up. You and I together can write a great song.
Yeah.
That's how it happens there.
Right.
So people want to get together and collaborate.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
My experience of the world of film and television and theater, and then the world of music, just from the outside, because of my kids and because
Yes.
of you and because of all these other musicians I know, is that there is far more collaboration and generosity in the world of music. As when people go to see each other, they go to see each other with tremendous enthusiasm, and they can all be playing in a given night.
That's right.
And you know, you could bomb that night, but that doesn't mean they're not going to come see you again. Whereas in this world, and I think to a certain extent it's set up by an ironclad hierarchy that comes down from studios, we are pitted against each other. And there isn't a place where all the actors can go and do their party pieces that night.
That's right.
And rent and sit
right.
at tables together and drink and
That's
you know
right.
go. I love that monologue.
That's right.
I mean, you can do it in an acting class, but there's not an environment of there. It's almost the opposite.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating to me to see.
I love it. I just love it. If I could live there and still direct all the time, I
Yeah.
probably would.
Well, you might.
I might be able
You've
to.
pulled off everything else.
We'll see.
Maybe that's
Give
your
me a
next.
minute.
Maybe that's your next thing.
Maybe.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Yeah.
We're almost finished, even though we could do another episode
know.
or 2 or 3 with you probably. But for now, I just want to collectively, all of us, because I think the most extraordinary thing, we've seen a lot of extraordinary things this past year. But one of the things that has really given us a glimpse into what's potentially a game changer for our country this year, I believe, are the high school students in Florida. And oh my goodness, she got through the barricade.
She did?
Yeah, I said, I'm talking about my dog, one of my dogs. I set up a barricade outside because she barks more when she can. Hold on. Everybody stop for a second. Hold on a second. So the dogs are here now. They're inside with us and everything is peaceful.
They're very happy.
It's quiet. We've got a little bit more time left, and one of the things I wanted to acknowledge today, as we started to talk about before the dogs went cuckoo, is what went on in Florida recently, and what these extraordinary high school students have taught us and are teaching us. In my opinion, this country just went through a giant shift. And it was long overdue. There hadn't been a solution. We couldn't quite figure out how are we going to move forward. And the students in Florida, I think, are beginning to show us. So I just wanted to get you guys a little bit of, you gals, a little bit of, hear your thoughts on that and what kind of effect are these students having on you? Because I know for me, the minute they started speaking, in the midst of their tragedy, I felt deeply emotional, but also extraordinarily hopeful about the future of our country. And I hadn't felt that in a while.
Oh, yeah.
So how about you,
they are the hope.
Stace? They are the hope.
The kids are the hope. The kids. We talked about it earlier briefly about how they have access to information now, which we didn't have. They have access to everything.
Right.
So you can tell a kid something, and if they don't believe it, they can go check on it.
That's right.
They can check on what the truth is. And so, good luck, bigoted parents, because your kids they're gonna learn the truth anyway. So, so I'm very hopeful, and I love that Emma Gonzalez. I'm like, can she run for president in 2020?
Yeah,
She's gonna be old enough. She's gonna meet the requirements. I mean,
yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
She's amazing.
So I want to stop for a second. Emma Gonzalez for 2020. I'm all in.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And there are many of them, but Cameron Kasky and his ability to persist in the question he was asking on the town hall. That was a great example of having information at your fingertips, which empowers a young person to just not ask, why is this happening, but the specificity with which they're bringing their questions and their challenges, which they're supposed to be doing, challenging the government. It's a democracy.
That's right.
And the other young woman that I've been very impressed with is I've seen Delaney Tarr on many of the talk shows, and she seems quite capable, like in one leap, to be able to handle that format with clarity about agenda and purpose and where we are. So then these are just three
Right.
of this group. And I have to say that I am tickled pink that like the core of this movement grew out of the theater students at that school because, hello, if anyone questions why do we have arts in education,
go.
here's a perfect example. Right? We
That's
need
right.
them. We need to know how to communicate. We need to know how to self-express. And we need to know how to delineate between an idea and an idea with an emotion and all those things that we learn in art. So, yes, so the hope. How about you? Where are you with that?
So I'm of this camp that I can't pay so much attention to it because it hurts my heart. But then I see these kids and they are fighting, and so many people are coming after them and saying horrible things, and they just keep going, and they're well-spoken and eloquent. And I just kind of sit there and I'm like, these kids, it's amazing because they're like, yeah, this happened to us. And so many people are saying, well, you don't have a voice. You're not old enough. Well, then who does? I mean, I know adults that aren't as passionate.
Well, they're also not as informed.
They're not as informed. It happened to these kids. And I think a lot of people are ignoring that, or they know it. And then it just blows my mind how much these kids are fighting.
Well, they're representing to so many people, Chelsea, I think is what you're saying, is they're representing a threat to the status quo,
exactly.
a major threat.
And you look back through history, right? And you see, the college kids that protested and like just all through history and the Women's March and so many, it's the younger generations.
Yeah, it always is.
And so why do we as humans and like as a society ignore that?
You know what I think? It's a good question. You know what I think, having lived through all of it and been one of the marchers and gotten tear gassed when I was 18, like I have this memory, one day I'm cheerleading, the next day I'm tear gassed. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like where my life was. But what I'm saying is that we had all of the difference. Here's what I'm seeing is the difference. And here's why I think the backlash is extreme, even though it was pretty extreme then. Killing students at Kent State, we have not seen that ever again. And God help this country if that ever happens again. But the difference between my generation, the infamous baby boomers, and we have made a bit of a mess out of this whole thing. When we were protesting, we had information, but we didn't have all the information.
Right.
We couldn't look somebody up on our phone and see how many times they had voted in Congress against yada yada. We did not have at networks of thousands of people that you just text them and say, walk out of school now, nationwide. I talked to a young student the other day from a school in New York who isn't on social media. He doesn't have Facebook or Instagram, and he's sitting there in science class, and his entire class gets up and leaves and walks over to Union Square. And he said he was a little bit out of it. He wasn't really paying attention, but he started seeing everybody. He didn't know what was happening. They all got buzzed at once and said, "It's now. Walk out. Support the Florida students." What I'm saying is, so we were back there. Clearly, we made an impact. And I say we. I'm really talking about people who are 10 years older than me who really did the work. I was sort of at the tail end of this, but there were things that were changed and we were inspired. Martin Luther King, there were so many things that were going on. This country was as active as it could be. But now we've got activism with technology.
Yes.
And it's not only does it make everybody more connected, it's empowering these students to be more eloquent because they have more facts at their fingertips. P.S. They're used to a culture where people sling insults at each other in public on the internet. So people are slinging insults. That's not new to them.
Well-
That would have been horrifying to us.
And I have to look at it too as we've had this entire generation, their whole lives they've been told, be the change, make a difference. So now that they're doing this and something they're super passionate about, older generations are like, what are they doing? They're too young, they can't do that. But it's like, you raise them to think for themselves and to have these opinions. And if, whether they're young or not, like, how many people through history made a difference and they probably weren't even old enough to like drink?
Well, yeah.
You know?
These kids aren't old enough to
Obviously.
drink. Yeah. I don't think it's older generations. I think it's the same kind of element.
Yeah.
There are a tremendous amount of parents, baby boomer parents, who are cheering these kids on. The best thing that ever happened is, well, if we messed it up, but look what's happening.
Yeah.
At least we introduced the right
Right.
ideas to whatever. I think it's the same people who are resisting, whether they're older or younger, are resisting what they feel is a threat to the status quo, because having tools and a voice and self-esteem all in one package, like Emma Gonzalez and these other kids. And they have just been traumatized. So these young people are capable of taking charge of a situation while being in trauma. That is an unusual human being. That is something I don't think I have ever quite seen. And where is that coming from? How are they that strong? How are they that strong? We should be in awe. The people, like you're saying, Chelsea, who are criticizing these people are absolutely coming out of fear-based ignorance.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've seen the rise of where that fear-based ignorance, where that's gotten us in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And where that group, that's been the group being played to.
Right.
And now we're seeing like the polar opposite of how that's going to, this was, in my feeling, the inevitable backlash to that.
Right.
Is this hyper-aware, informed group,
Right.
fighting against that.
Right.
And how that's going to
a
come
great
into
point.
it.
Yes.
And I think, we're used to seeing, alternative facts and all this stuff that's not true or incorrect information being sent to us by the highest levels.
Right.
And these kids are like, no, and they're just calling it,
Yeah.
which is great. And I also, for me, I read this article about, their command station. They took over some of their parents' homes and they're just in there, with their computers. And for me, it was almost shaming to me. I'm like, look at these kids, what they have been through. Like, they are sitting there, like, they have just thrown this together and they're changing the world.
Right.
And all of us are like, oh, it's bad, it's tragic, what can we do?
Right.
And it's like, no, that's how you do it. You just sit down and do it.
You do it.
And that's just how any change is that some group or some people just sit down and do it. And the rest of us have to look at that and be like, okay, we just do it.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. You said you're a baby boomer.
Yeah.
Am I a baby boomer?
I think you're a little bit younger.
I'm 67, so I'm 50.
I don't think
Almost
so.
So I wonder if
What
my
are
generation
you?
has a name. Do I have a name?
What
in
are
my generation?
you? Post-baby boomer.
Post-baby boomer.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And these kids are Z?
Generation Z.
Gen Z. And you know what? I think even millennials have been really taken by, woken up by these kids too. Millennials have been extraordinarily productive in our society, but they were not born with a iPhone in their hands. These kids were.
Right, exactly.
These kids, these had an iPhone in their cribs,
right.
It's a whole, and it is changing who the human being is and what they're capable of. And I think there's a tragic beauty in what this is displaying to us. It is displaying to us that we have a different kind of human being on the rise, and there's tremendous hope in it, tremendous hope. And I just want to say to all of us, so the march on the 24th, and I'm sure that will be nationwide and everything, but wherever these individual kids go and all of the people who have been victims to these ridiculously horrific murders by assault-level weapons in our country, the recovery that it must take these people to go through is just unimaginable. And I, for one, just keep thinking, I want to stay in in there with these people, way beyond the march, way beyond the politics. What can we do to collectively, I can't remember the woman's name, but she was in the meeting with the president. They had a meeting with the president, some of these kids, and there was a woman who was a mother from Sandy Hook who became an activist through Sandy Hook. And she was extraordinarily clear and calm. And I thought to myself, I would like to have her on this podcast because I want to know how she got from what that must have felt like. I think her child was 6.
Come on.
To get to be the comfort to these teenagers who were speaking their minds to the president. How did she get there?
Right.
We need those people to speak and tell us what their journey is, because the strength is just amazing. But okay, so we love you, students of Florida.
Yes, we do.
We're here. Keep going. I think I'd like to tie it up now, because we could talk for 5 hours, and that will get hard for people, I'm sure. Stacey K. Black, is there anything you want to close with about your hopes of your career, or your hopes for the people that are listening in terms of perhaps their potential careers in the arts or in anything, or women? Is there anything at all you want to kind of close out this beautiful interview with?
Oh, yeah. So dealing with fear, like I have a couple of books that were major influences on me when I was a kid, when younger and stuff. And one was Anthem by Ayn Rand. Another one is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, PhD. And I read this when I was younger. She made it so clear. We're always going to be afraid. You're never going to get rid of fear. So the choice you have to make is, are you going to let it paralyze you, or are you going to let it propel you? And that is it. So when it gets down to the nitty gritty and my heart's beating really fast and I feel like I can't go on, I can't do this anymore, I just go, you're either going to be paralyzed, or you're going to come from a place of being paralyzed, or come from a place of power and move on, because you're going to be afraid anyway. So you may as well be afraid and do the thing you want to do, rather than be afraid and not do the thing you want to do. And she has a little worksheet in there. It's like changing your vocabulary from I can't to I won't. Because can't, you're a victim, and won't, you're making the choice. All cool shit like that. It's an amazing book. Everybody should read it. My naivete, which we've talked about.
Yay.
I do have a hope for the world, and that is that we can maybe get past all kinds of boundaries. Like quit having boundaries, quit having... in my little pocket of the world, the DGA has... the Women's Steering Committee, the African American Steering Committee, the Asian Steering Committee, the Latino Steering Committee, to help people who are underrepresented get more represented. And I kind of hope for the day when we don't need that anymore. I want to see a day before I die, I'm not sure if I will, that labels and boundaries could go away. I'm not sure if they ever could. But the biggest war America is fighting, in my opinion, and has been for so long, is within our own borders. You can say Republican in the same terrible way that you say rapist. You can say Democrat in the same terrible way you say murderer. Yeah. But we're all the same. Right. Let's cut it out. Right. Let's cut it. And then can you quit saying Muslim in the same way that you say rapist? It's like, can we stop doing that? I don't know how to say that any better than that. No. In America, we are tearing ourselves apart by the left and the right and the Republican and the Dems, I think. And instead of trying to figure out a way to live together. Yeah. And I wish we could do that. That's really one of my biggest hopes.
Do you know who Eckhart Tolle is? He's an incredible, you remember the book, The Power of Now? Yeah. Yeah, okay, so he wrote that. Okay. So he's got a whole enterprise, really, of thought. And one of the things that I love so much about him and listening to him is that he feels, as far as I can tell in terms of his brilliant experience, that the whole key to all of this is to understand that the only life that actually is taking place is the exact moment you are in. Right. And to continue to commit to that as a way of life, because it dissolves the differences.
It's awesome.
It just does.
I do have one more thing to say.
Yes,
In the
please.
same line.
Yes.
There's a, do you guys know the book, The Martian?
Ye-
It became a movie.
yes.
It was written by a guy named Andy Weir, and he has a short story called The Egg. It's like an 8-minute audiobook. You can get it on Audible or you can read it.
Yeah.
It's on his website. Just go to Andy Weir, you can find it.
Yeah.
It's a short story about somebody who's just died and God is talking to him.
Yeah.
And come to find out, he says you're going to be reincarnated as a Chinese woman in, 1400s or whatever. And time traveling, and it all comes down to you are everyone.
Yes.
You are Hitler, and you are the millions he killed. You are Lincoln, and you are what's his
Right.
name? Who shot him? You are in the car ahead of the guy who's screaming at you. That we are all the same.
We are all the same.
We are all the same. And but it's such a beautiful short
It's
story.
wonderful.
And now when I'm on the road, even and somebody cuts me off in traffic, instead of getting mad, I just go, "Oh, I was in a real big hurry.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I was in a real big hurry."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll slow down a little bit, let you go. You
Yeah.
know, it. I'm not religious.
No, it's genius. That
is-
is spiritual.
It's very spiritual. It's the
Yeah.
first spiritual thing I've ever, and it hit me hard.
That's so beautiful.
it's called The
Stace. The Egg.
And it's by Andy Weir. And if you go to Audible, you can get it for like $2. And the narrator is R.C. Bray, and he's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
amazing.
also great because what I'm hearing you say is that it eliminates the position of victim.
Yeah.
It just eliminates it. Everything that happens to you is part of you. You're part of them.
Yes, and I think what we're missing mostly is empathy. And I think that
Yeah.
if you can understand that I am you and you are me,
Yeah.
we have to have empathy for each other.
Yeah.
So if we could just get more empathy in the world, a little bit of empathy.
The Beatles.
Check, please, for empathy.
I am you and you are me,
But it's
and
true.
we are all
if
together.
you think about it that way, then you have
Oh, it
to
is
have
true.
empathy. You have to. You
Oh, the
must.
Beatles.
The Beatles.
That will do another.
Another podcast.
We'll do another podcast.
We'll do
And
musical
everything
sing.
we want about the Beatles. I was going to have you sing on this one. We're going to do it on another
Sure.
another one. I think this is better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to close out now. Stacey K. Black.
Thank you
It
for
has
having
been
me.
an absolute pleasure to have you on
This
this.
is so much fun. I hope that I've been, like I said, I hope I've been coherent.
You're utterly coherent. And it's really been wonderful to get your point of view. It'll be really valuable. And I'm sure we'll get all kinds of feedback on it and stuff. So I don't know, maybe we should just keep like a file on our guests so that when we come bring them back in, we can go back. You know what I mean? Like this is, whatever. But thank you for helping us launch this. And
Sure.
yes, what do you want to
Chelsea
say?
had mentioned a minute ago about maybe advice for people who are going after something that doesn't seem easy or whatever. I just want to remind everybody to ask for what you want. Open your mouth and speak and ask for what you want. No one's going to come to you, tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I think you want this kind of almost unattainable thing. Here it is. No one's going to do that. You have to ask for it and go get it. That's all.
Okay, so we're about to close out here, and I want to say two things. First, I want to thank Stacey, and I want to thank Chelsea, and I want to thank Mina for this amazing launch of Lady Bam podcast. It's been very exciting, and I personally feel like we've opened the door for what we're going to be interested in and what we want to hear from you about. And it is saying goodbye to what would Sharon Rader do, WWSRD. And I remember when we were talking about the new name, I was like, yeah, but I wanted to have that same kind of rhythm, WWSRD, And anyway, Lady Bam is perfect, and it's different. But I feel a little sad right now because WWSRD gave Sharon Rader a bigger voice and gave me the opportunity to understand Sharon more deeply. It actually changed my performance as Sharon Rader. And that was a kind of amazing thing that we did together, the three of us. So bye-bye, WWSRD. However, you can still hear all of WWSRD on MajorCrimesTV.net, as well as the premiere episode of Lady Bam podcast. You can also here on MajorCrimesTV.net. And from there, as we move forward on MajorCrimesTV.net, we will lead you to the other places where Lady Bam is going to live. We're still working that out. So for now, this podcast has been brought to you in part by MajorCrimesTV.net. Oh, it's also been brought to you by a lot of really great crackers and cheese. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Mary. That cheese is so good. Can we talk about the cheese on the podcast? Because this is amazing.